I'm Robin Gagnon.
And I'm Eric Gagnon, and we sell restaurants. We started the nation's largest restaurant brokerage firm, We Sell Restaurants, over a decade ago. You can find us online at WeSellRestaurants.com.
We are on your radio once a week with the leading authorities in this industry talking about subjects trending in the restaurant business. Tweet your own questions on the topic while we're on the air to our Twitter handle, that's Sell Restaurants, or post them up to our Facebook page, Facebook.com/We Sell Restaurants. If we don't get to your question, we'll follow up on social media.
Our goal is to satisfy your appetite for acquisition, feed the need for restaurant reality, and serve up a recipe for business success. If you have any ideas for the show or any comments, you can email me. My email address is Eric, E-R-I-C, at WeSellRestaurants.com.
Today, we're talking about the traits of a successful restaurant CEO and or leaders. We want to know what separates these individuals from those who never crack the code for big success. What is it about a leader that can make big things happen? How do they develop or create company cultures that drive success? Is it a matter of leading by example or inspiring success in others when you're in the restaurant business and driven by service? We're first joined by Mike Pruitt, the CEO of Chanticleer, which holds a prized ownership stake in the Hooters restaurant chain. That's an operation of over 412 Hooters restaurants in 28 countries. In our second segment, we'll be joined by Matt DeBusk. Matt was recently referred to in QSR Magazine as one of the 11 millennial leaders 35 and under poised to become the next generation of influential quick service and fast casual leaders.
Michael Pruitt is a longtime entrepreneur with a proven track record. He possesses the expertise to evaluate potential investments, form key relationships, and recognize a strong management team. He has a long history of success, beginning with the founding of Avenel Financial Group, a boutique financial service firm, followed by Avenel Ventures. He has owned and sold companies on his own, including Southern Cartridge, which he sold to MicroMagnetic. He has worked in business where revenue increased exponentially under his watch. Mr. Pruitt has also assisted several public and private companies in raising capital, recruiting management, and preparing companies to go public or to be sold. He was the CEO and president of RCG Companies, that later was also called to One Travel, a publicly traded holding company listed on the American Stock Exchange. We're speaking with him today in his role as the president and CEO of Chanticleer Holdings, which holds a key ownership stake in the legendary Hooters chain and international franchisee for South Africa, Brazil, Australia, and parts of Europe.
Chanticleer owns and operates Hooters brand restaurants in emerging international markets. Hooters is one of the most well-known restaurant brands in the world and has a menu which consists of moderately priced American bar food and the world-famous Hooters Girls. The company currently owns in whole or part of the exclusive franchise rights to develop and operate Hooters in South Africa, Hungary, the UK, parts of Brazil. He has joint ventured with the current Hooters franchisee in Australia while evaluating several additional opportunities internationally. Chanticleer also owns and operates American Roadside Burgers, a Charlotte, North Carolina-based chain, owns a majority interest in Just Fresh Restaurants, and also owns Chef John Tazer's inspired restaurant Spoon Bar and Kitchen in Dallas, Texas. That takes a while because you have so many accomplishments under your belt. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it. And after listening to all that, you just reminded me how old I am.
Hey, Mike, let's get right to it. Chanticleer became involved with Hooters as a result of a personal relationship between yourself and legendary founder, Mr. Brooks. For our listener that haven't heard the story, can you tell us a little bit about how the relationship led to your holdings in Hooters today?
Sure. Well, the relationship actually started through Coastal Carolina University, where I played on a couple World Series baseball teams back in the early 80s, and have been active in terms of a donor there and sit on a few of the boards at Coastal. And Mr. Brooks, that legendary founder that you just referred to, was very kind enough in 2002 to give Coastal the elite gift to start a football program. And today we actually play in Brooks Stadium, named after him for that gift. And when he made the gift, they asked him to sit on the foundation board of the university, which I also sit on, and a friendship was formed, a mentor-mentee relationship, evolved out of that friendship that led to, in 2005, when we started Chanticleer, which at the time was a BDC, an investment company. He was aware of what we were doing. He approached me in early 2006 and said, would you consider making a minority investment in Hooters for the purpose of helping take Hooters public, where you can represent you and I as owners. You know, he was kind enough to say that he never had a partner in his life, and he liked, trusted, and admired me, and and gave us the opportunity. And it's part of that folklore of a story that it's funny. I was just reminded of it again this morning. Is we actually sat down at lunch and negotiated the deal, and when we went to get up, we shook hands on it, and he goes, "Now wire me $1 million." I said, "What?" And I said, he goes, "Well, we shook hands." I said, "Well, Mr. Brooks, I got partners, I got people, I got attorneys, we have no paperwork." He goes, "Well, we shook hands." And I said, "Okay, but I need to talk to some people." So I called my lawyer, and she said, "No way." And I called my other lawyer, and he said, "No way." And I said to both of them, "You don't realize, I didn't know this, man. If I don't wire him $1 million, we don't have a deal." And so I wired him $1 million on a handshake.
Wow.
And he went and told all of his friends the next day in Myrtle Beach, they were our mutual friends. "I told you he was a good boy. He wired me $1 million on a handshake." That's the kind of people I like to do business with.
Oh.
And that led to our investment in Hooters, and ultimately led to the right of first refusal that he provided Chanticleer, that in the event something happened to him and his family decided to sell Hooters, he gave me the first right to buy the Hooters restaurant chain. And so, unfortunately, 4 months after we made the investment, he dropped dead of a brain aneurysm unexpectedly, and that resulted in the family ultimately decided to sell the brand and gave Chanticleer the opportunity that we have today, which was to buy it. And we partnered with 2 private equity funds, and 3 years ago, January, we bought the entire restaurant chain of Hooters, both the parent company, the franchisor, and with that, as you mentioned in your intro, we also had some franchise rights. At the time, it was just South Africa, which we've expanded since.
That is such an amazing story, and I think it really does speak to the theme of our show today, which is leadership. And when you exercise that leadership and you bond and you have that partnership and commitment and trust between 2 elements, whether that's folks who are working with you or partnerships you're seeking in the restaurant community, the power of making that deal and being able to reach across the table, shake hands, and then have that firm commitment lead to the kind of acquisition that your firm enjoys today. It's just an unbelievable story.
Yep, it's funny. After we bought the company, our local paper called and said, "I'm getting a lot of grief. I didn't write something on this story to you." And I told him this very story I just told you, and he wrote a really neat article that was called "The Lost Art of the Handshake." And I think that is a foundation principle of our past generations that have sort of been lost with as we've gotten to the current generations, where unfortunately litigation and lawyers certainly they have their place, but unfortunately it's caused things like a handshake that art to be lost.
Absolutely.
That's well said. Mike, you are operating in 8 international locations, and being a leader is not easy to begin with, even if you have people just in your front of the house, back of the house in one unit. What are some of the challenges that you've been experiencing, and how do you resolve this in operating restaurants and having your leadership reach so far out of your own offices?
Well, I think, if you go back to Chanticleer, the fact that our background is more of investors and capital allocators than operators. And we're very big, diehard Warren Buffett fans, and our principles of investing, which are you look for good businesses run by good people that you like, trust, and admire, and you just want an opportunity to have a better than average rate of return on your investment. And so Hooters, which started out as an investment for us and was an amazing investment and continues to be an amazing investment, became the opportunity it is today in terms of more of an operating role because of the death of the founder and us having the opportunity to buy it. But we've never lost our focus on those core principles, and that is we know we got a great business in Hooters. We now know we also have a great business in American Roadside Burgers, Just Fresh, and Spoon, but it all came down to people. And I think people is the key. So in each instance, that in each business or each country that we're involved in, we have an operating partner in that country who has an economic stake in most of the cases alongside of us, and is responsible for growing the business in those markets. But people always will be the key thing and the key challenges is to find those right people. And then the only thing we insist upon at Chanticleer, if we're going to be that capital provider, is that we have online access to the point of sale and the bank statements, and our auditors, do the accounting work at the end of the year to audit the business. To go back to the old Ronald Reagan saying, "Trust but verify." So, we look after the P's and Q's to make sure the business is being financially run right, and then we now have increased our staff. We hired from Hooters, the young lady who ran their Hooters University for 13 years, to come work for us to take over the training aspect. So we brought some of that in-house. And then we hired Mark Allison, who was the head of the Johnson & Wales Culinary School here in Charlotte, that he took early retirement, and he joined us to look after the culinary side of our restaurant business. So it's an evolving process, and we learn, and we asked our people what could we do to help them be more successful in the tools, and we're now 22 restaurants and growing, and it's an exciting time, and we feel very fortunate each day to have the people who've chosen to work and join us, and the opportunities that we've been presented in terms of the brands we're involved with.
I think that you clearly articulate that in the message from the CEO on your website. It says, in part, our employees are guided by our values to be safe, to treat everyone with dignity and respect, and to demonstrate excellence in all we do. Moreover, our corporate policies are designed to ensure that these values are continuously upheld at all levels of the company. So it's not only, it's really walking the walk as well as putting the message out there. How is it that you bring everybody on board with a culture that's seeking excellence and a commitment to these shared values we're talking about?
Well, it's something we work at every day. And I think, as I've being a former athlete myself, playing baseball, I always tell people that, baseball is a great preparer for life, because in baseball, if you're successful 1 out of 3 times, you go to the Hall of Fame. So you better figure out how to deal with failure, because you're going to do it 2 out of 3 times. And the other aspect of baseball that I think is also, relevant is that although it's a team sport, it relies on each individual doing their job in order for the team to be successful. And then the last thing I always tell people, at the end of the day, if you don't swing the bat, you're never going to hit the ball. And so you have to be in the game, you have to be a participant, and you have to make good choices each day. And what I try to do from me being the leader of the company is lead, you said in your intro, by showing people, and I work, I like to think I work as hard, if not harder, than anybody in the organization. So I show them that every day I work hard, I care, I'm here if you need me, I'll always be supportive, but I'm going to give you the tools and the opportunity to perform your job and go out and make it happen, and I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader. And so we all have our roles, and we all perform those roles, and with the success of each one performing their role, the team will be successful.
That is great.
Yeah, and I know you noticed you just reached over 500 employees here recently, and that, what are some of the things, maybe some of our listeners here may be owning one restaurant or maybe 2 or 3 restaurants. They may have 5 employees or they may have 50 employees. But as a restaurant leader, what are some of the things that you're looking for on developing your team that you could share with some of our listeners?
Well, I think, excitement, passion, integrity, honesty, core values that you would look for in a friend or a business partner or a teacher for your kids, all qualities that you would look for in people in a restaurant. And it's funny, although we do have 500 employees, I think also on our website, and that video says, we truly do look to open one great restaurant at a time. And so each time we make a decision to sign a lease, to open a restaurant, to allocate capital to that, we look to staff that restaurant with the best people, because truly in the restaurant business, like a lot of businesses, the person who's waiting on the customer at the table has just as much influence over the experience as the manager, or certainly me sitting back in the corporate office. So we truly do have to train, and that's why I hired, April from Hooters Corporate, who ran their training program, because her passion and her integrity and her knowledge and is just invaluable to bring to our team to instill that down to whether it's the Hooters girl in Budapest and Nottingham where she just got back from a trip going through re-educating and retraining them to, the person serving people at American Roadside in Charlotte or Just Fresh in Charlotte.
That's great.
We try to really instill that culture.
So last year you mentioned the 5-restaurant chain American Roadside Burgers. You also acquired a controlling interest in Just Fresh Restaurants and now Spoon Bar and Kitchen. Hey, you sound like you're on a spending spree. What's going on with all this acquisition?
Well, each case was different. For the American Roadside Burger opportunity, obviously, we're looking for concepts that one would work here, but also work more importantly internationally in the footprints where Hooters has allowed us to go with attracting quality people. And so there's no doubt the better burger category is still the fastest growing categories in the U.S., and it's certainly a product that is looking to go internationally, and there's been some successful, companies have already went over there and are having some success. And so we looked at that, but really in the end of the day, what attracted me to the opportunity of American Roadside was the opportunity to work with Rich Adams, who is our CEO. Rich was at Bojangles, which has been one of the most successful restaurant ventures in the Charlotte community over the last 10 years, from both building it, selling it once to the owner of the Carolina Panthers, and then him reselling it 3 years later to Advent, the private equity firm. And Rich, the first 5 years he was at Bojangles, ran their franchising operation, and the last 5 years ran about 100 company stores. And so that skill set to me was invaluable, and him wanting to come have the opportunity to run American Roadside made it a deal going back to those three principles: the opportunity, the people, and then getting the opportunity for a good return on our invested capital. Just Fresh was totally different. Just Fresh, unfortunately, the majority owner had some financial problems on things unrelated to Just Fresh, where he was put in a position that he needed to sell his majority stake in Just Fresh, and we saw an opportunity in a space, the healthier eating space, with a brand, and then Just Fresh alone, is a great name and a great brand, with a great leader there as well, and Shelley Curtin, who runs she's a operating partner and runs the stores. And it was a deal that we couldn't refuse the opportunity to buy that controlling stake. And because of the space, we just got invited into the new baseball park that opened in downtown Charlotte. And we're looking to open at least one more location here this year. And then from beyond that, explore, going again, the franchising, and again, the international component of it. And then the last piece that you mentioned was, Spoon, and you mentioned world-renowned chef John Tizar. I didn't realize how popular he was until I got involved with the opportunity to buy Spoon. My own 24-year-old daughter called me up and said, "Dad, you didn't tell me you were doing a deal with John Tizar." I was like, "How do you know who he is?" But I guess he was on America's Top Chef, and
that's right.
He's much more. He's world-renowned, and then the Spoon itself is a very profitable business in its own right. Was just given the #1 restaurant by Texas Monthly Magazine for the state of Texas, and so he's had a lot of credentials and kudos for what he's accomplished. But what attracted us to it is he has a great idea for a fast casual seafood concept that I think really has the opportunity to be something big. And so you'll see here shortly that we'll announce that venture, and it'll be done in Dallas where John can look after it, and we'll look to roll out. And then, like you said earlier, we're constantly looking for opportunities that we could potentially acquire, whether it be within the Hooters system or outside of the Hooters system. Because one of the things that I'm not sure you mentioned, but we did buy and closed in the first quarter, we bought the Hooters in Portland, Oregon, and in Tacoma, Washington, which brought us into the Hooters business domestically as well. And so it's, as Tom Lewison said when we bought American Roadside in the paper here, there's great operators looking for capital, and there's capital looking for great operators. And what we've done at Chanticleer is provide a platform to mirror those two pieces of it.
Very, very well said.
And that's a great segue into my next question to you, Mike. We have a great operators and great CEOs and leaders of the food service industry that came to our show that we've met as a restaurant brokers, Robin and I, and a lot of them started mopping the floors and washing dishes in the kitchen and make their way up to CEO of some larger outfits. And your background is a little different. You didn't go that route. So how is this that your eye is trained? But I mean, what makes you also successful at this, that you're looking at it from a different perspective than these guys that started in the back of the house and worked their way to the front office?
Well, one thing, my dad would probably disagree a little bit with what you said, in that he had a sixth grade education and he was in the trucking business. And every kid at the age of 13, when they got out of school for the summer, was excited. Not this kid, because he made me sweep floors, until I could go to baseball practice or a baseball game, change truck tires. I mean, everything that was the hardest work that you could want to do all the way through college, only to have him tell me when I graduated from college I didn't have a job working for him, go make my own mark.
Wow.
But he gave me that foundation. And his pet line when I was a kid was, you can beat 50% by hard work, 40% by being honest in your effort, and the last 10% to dogfight. So if you just work hard and are honest, you've got 90% of them beat, and I've subscribed to that theory since the beginning. But what we've done is we've proven over a long period of time that we're really good investors, and we understand what makes a good investment. And so we've looked at the restaurant business. It wasn't our intention to focus on the restaurant business, but again, going back, because of our investment in Hooters and the death of the founder, it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Brooks gave me this opportunity, and my partners that we bought Hooters together, they never met Mr. Brooks. They never met his wife and his daughter as I've gotten to know him. So, I'm carrying on to some degree a legacy of this iconic brand as someone who has, a knowledge and a relationship to the past, and then obviously as a board member and part owner, in the new management team and the new things that we're doing in Hooters and the success we're having, I'm sort of that bridge to both sides. And so we looked at Hooters, and 2 years ago I would have told you our focus would have been solely Hooters. But as we learn about the restaurant and what it takes to be successful in the restaurant business through Hooters, we saw the opportunity to take more of American brands internationally, and as long as we had great people, great opportunity that we were excited about.
I think we're going to have to leave it there, Mike, and I think we could probably talk all day. This is Eric and Robin Gagnon, the restaurant brokers. We've been talking to Mike Pruitt, CEO of Chanticleer Holdings. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break.